Hi, I'm Laura Jean and I'm going to teach you some basic guitar. The goals of the entire class is to teach you to play in the keys of G, D, A, and C, and to transition smoothly between the chords, and to be able to practice and play worship songs at a simple level at home in preparation for playing on a worship team. And that's Oliver. And today my goal is to get you started by playing 4 chords and starting by practicing 2 songs at home. And your practice after this will be to practice strumming and become quicker at chord transitions between the 4 chords I teach you, and to baby your fingers for those of you learning on acoustic. I'm teaching you on a 12 string just because that's what I have at home right now. And so 12 strings are a little harder to play because you have to press down more strings at a time. Acoustics are a little easier, just playing 6 strings. And then electrics are going to be the easiest on your fingers, so if you have any troubles with your wrist or your hands, you might want to try electric. First off, when you're sitting and you want to hold your guitar, you want to rest it on your leg and have the neck at a comfortable position for your wrist. Your goal is to make sure that your wrist doesn't bend too much. The further down you have it, the more your wrist will have to bend. So just find a comfortable position. Of course, the further down you go, the cooler you look. So find a nice comfortable medium, and just have it so your wrist doesn't hurt you. Your other hand, your right arm, this is all assuming that you're a right-handed person, your right hand will come over kind of on the hip of the guitar up here and come down so that your hand is able to play in front of the sound hole. Again, I'm not a professional. I haven't taken proper lessons before, so this is just stuff that I've taught myself. So if I'm doing something that's technically not right, forgive me. This is just what works for me. So the parts of the guitar that you'll need to know as I'm teaching you what to do mainly are the neck. This is the neck, and then the frets. This is important. Okay, this is the 1st fret, the 2nd fret, 3rd fret, and so on, 4th, 5th. When I say that you need to put your finger in the 1st fret, or your first finger, your pointer finger in the 1st fret, that means somewhere in here, if I say on the low E, that would be the low sounding E, and you're going to want to press your finger as close as you can to that metal fret. You'll see the metal fret right there. You want to press your finger close to it, but without going actually on the fret. If you get too far onto the fret, you'll buzz or mute the string. If you get too far back, you have to press super hard, and it's really difficult to play the chord that way. So that's a fret, the neck, the sound hole, and the rest you can kind of ignore for now. Okay, next I'd like to talk about the string names. Okay, here's my handy dandy chart of the strings. When we write out chords on paper, they're usually written out this way, with frets drawn in here as extra lines, and then dots written where your fingers should go on those lines. Right now I'm just using this to show you what the names of the strings are. So you would hold it like this if you wanted to put it up with your guitar. The names are E, A, D, G, B, E. There's a couple mnemonics you can use to remember that. There's elephants and donkeys grow big ears. And then one that's a little less kid-friendly, but not bad still, is Eddie ate dynamite, goodbye Eddie. That one kind of a little more memorable. So those are the strings: E, A, D, G, B, E. So the first thing you want to do is possibly stop this and tune your guitar. Hopefully mine's reasonably in tune. Alright, here's the chord, E minor. This is how you'd see it written out on a piece of paper. You'll notice up here we've got zeros, 1, 2, and a couple more zeros. So the 0 means that string is held open. You're not going to touch it. This one, where there's a dot in the 2nd fret, here's that 1st fret, 2nd fret, that means that you're going to press down that string, which would be the E, A, the A string, with your 1st finger, so that would be the pointer finger. And then on the next string, which would be the D, Eddie eats dynamite, there's the D, you're going to hold that down with your second finger, which would be your middle finger, and then the rest will be open. This is the E minor, probably the simplest true chord out there. So you're going to press down your pointer finger in the second fret on the A string, and then your middle finger in the second fret on the D string, and then you're going to slide them forward as close as you can to that metal fret without actually going onto that fret. And then pluck out each string and make sure there's no buzzing. See? Okay, I've got a little bit of muting there, so that means that my hand is hitting it. I've got to figure out what I'm doing wrong and change it until it rings clear. Every note rings clear. And if you're having buzzing problems, that's what you want to do to see what your problem is. And once you've got it fixed, once you find out what your problem is, then you can start strumming high all over. Okay, now that we've got one chord under our belt, I want to focus a little bit on strumming and holding a pick. Here's a pick. I like to use, I think they're called Mad Dog picks, because they've got super grippy bumps on them. Any pick with bumps on them is useful. The flat ones tend to fly off. You'll still lose these sometimes too. But find one that you like, that's comfortable for you, a comfortable thickness. The thinner it is, the easier it is to play, to strum with it. The thicker it is, you'll be able to go faster and louder. When it's really bendy, it's hard to play fast and loud. So I recommend starting off with the softer kind. So with the E, when you're going to strum, you'll want to angle the pick down as you're going down toward the ground, and then angle it back up as you come back up. So you're going to make it so it doesn't get caught, obviously, as you go down, and doesn't get caught as you come back up. So you kind of have to bend your wrist a little bit or move your hand a little bit. And so the best way, we're just going to do a 4/4 rhythm. 1, 2, ready, go, and kind of do a down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. This is the boring part. Here we go. 2, ready, and go, and down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, and that's enough. Okay, here's our next chord. Here's a G. Okay, and one thing I want to say right here is that different people play chords with different fingerings. If you find that a fingering that I use is not comfortable for you, don't use it. Find another fingering that works for you. There are variations, and if it works for you and it's comfortable, I say go for it, even though that might not be technically correct. So the G, we're going to be putting fingers on 3 strings, the E, the A, and then the high E again. And then the 3 center strings we're going to leave open. So how that's going to look is we're going to put our first string, always, I find it's easiest if you start with your pointer. So the first, your pointer, you're going to put in the 2nd fret on the A, just like we did for the E minor. And then your middle finger is going to go in the 3rd fret on the low E, which is the low sounding E, as far as you can get it forward on that low E string in the 3rd fret, and then our pinky in the 3rd fret as far forward in that 3rd fret as we can on the high E. And then we're going to strum it. We're going to count in. Well, we'll first pluck out each note. Ooh, I'm a little out of tune. Okay, and here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. Thing is transitions. So we're transitioning from E minor to G. We're going to start with our fingers in the E minor position. So your pointer finger will be on the A string as close as you can get it to the 2nd fret, while still allowing your middle finger to also be in the 2nd fret on the D string. So once you're sure you're playing without muting anything, then you can start strumming. But before we go ahead and start strumming, I want you to practice transitioning your fingers. So if you are using this fingering for E minor, you're going to leave your pointer finger where it is on the A string in the 2nd fret. You're just going to move your middle finger up into the 3rd fret on the E string. So it makes that transition from the D string to the low E, and your pinky's got to come into play. So engage pinky. So practice that a couple times, and then once you kind of get an idea of how that's going to feel, let's go ahead and practice the transition. So here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. 2, 3, and on the 4 we're going to G. 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so one thing you might have noticed is that you barely got to the G by the time I had finished. And so we're going to practice it again. The transitions are difficult, and it's one of the hardest part of learning how to play guitar, is to get those transitions smooth. And you want to keep practicing those. And one thing that I say when you're learning, it's most important that you come in on the first beat of the measure. So say you've got 4 beats of a measure of E minor. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then followed by 4 of a G. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's better that you cut out some of that E minor, the end of the E minor, as you prepare to go to the G, than to cut out the beginning of the G. People need to hear you coming in on the first beat when you're playing a song. So as we're learning, I want you to stop at the after the 2nd strum. So we'll do 1, 2, you stop, get your fingering, and try to come in on the first beat of the next measure. So here we go. E minor, 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, to get into the G position. 1, 2, 3, 4, we're into 8, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So hopefully you got to that G by the time I got to the first beat of the G measure, or at least somewhere in there in those 8 counts. So you had a couple of practices strumming. Okay, you're going to want to keep practicing that until you can smoothly get there on the first beat, or very close to the first beat. If you are able to play 2 beats of the E minor and then get to the G on the first 2, try holding it for 3. Do 1, 2, 3, transition, 1, 2, 3, 4. And once you're able to get that down, get to the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Really quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, the next transition, obviously from the G back to the E minor. You will be taking your pinky off, get it out of there. Your middle finger needs to come back in the 2nd fret, which means you're going to have to move that pointer finger back a little bit. So practice that a couple times. Put your pinky and your middle finger on, and then take them off to get back into the E minor position. Okay, so now let's try the G for 4 strums, and then we'll go to the E minor for 4 strums. And again, after 2 strums on the G, I actually want you to stop playing, get into position for the E minor, and then come in on the first beat. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, stop strumming, go to the E minor, and here go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now let's do it again. Okay, here we go. To the G position, get your fingers back into the G. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, move to E minor, 3, 4, 1, 2,